I was in New York over the weekend, and I was kind of starting to set things up for the eventual move of the David Pakman Show headquarters to New York City. Of course, Lewis joining us today from the Austin, Texas bureau of the David Pakman Show. And I had a really interesting conversation. I visited a friend of mine who lives in Sunset Park in Brooklyn. Sunset Park has, it may have more than this, but it has one area that's predominantly Hispanic and another area that's predominantly Asian. And I was taking the subway. It was about 11:30 at night, taking it back towards Manhattan, and just got talking to a Hispanic guy who was there. Told him, oh, I'm from Argentina and I'm moving to New York. And oh, where are you from? He's like, oh, I'm actually from New York, so on and so forth. And somehow we get on the topic of Las Vegas, Lewis. Now remember, I'm talking to a Hispanic guy, and he says, yeah, I feel a lot more safe here in New York than in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, the buses stop running kind of early. All of a sudden, you get stuck somewhere around 3 or 4 minorities. I wasn't really feeling safe. I found this fascinating because, first of all, this guy was Hispanic. So when he says minorities, I assume he's talking about black people. For whatever reason, I might be wrong about this. I don't assume that he's talking about Asians who are making him feel unsafe in Las Vegas. I feel like he's probably participating in more common stereotypes. So as a Hispanic who himself is a minority, whatever that means in terms of our current racial construction, he talks about how he doesn't feel safe around minorities, that I presume means black people. But this is fascinating because there's always someone to look down at if you want to be racist or xenophobic. We see it in Europe, right? It kind of tends to go in Western Europe. It goes from east to west. Most of Europe kind of looks down at Spain as, yeah, they're part of Europe, but they're not really part of Western Europe. And then in Spain, there's a lot of looking down at Portugal, which is further west. Similar example in South America. In Argentina and Chile, there's quite a bit of xenophobia about those particularly immigrants from Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, Paraguay, etc. And I just found myself very interested, but also kind of saddened by the fact that this still remains the status quo in great part. I kind of tried to change the topic and say, I said something like, is Vegas known for crime? Or I just kind of tried to get off the topic of race because it made me a little uncomfortable. I don't even know this guy. What's your reaction to that kind of commentary, Lewis?
I think it would be even stranger if he was talking about Hispanics. I don't know what the situation is in Las Vegas, but I know there are a lot of very poor areas with high crime rates. So I can see kind of what he's talking about, but it doesn't really surprise me. I mean, there seems to be a lot of tension even among minorities about each other in this country, and well, the funny thing is that eventually Hispanics will be the minority, and then white people will be the minority.
You mean Hispanics will be the majority? You mean
majority, right?
Yeah.
Hispanics will be the majority.
That is another interesting
kind
element.
of strange.
And I think really what is under this is probably issues of social class, because this individual is living in New York City, and even if he's not a rich individual, he can still afford to live in a city that's very, very expensive. And he, from the areas that he described where he lives, it's not a particularly cheap area. So it may be more about social class. And you know what? Maybe he's referring to those dangerous, way poorer Hispanics, right? I mean, there could be even, if it exists in South America, there could be intra-Hispanic racism or xenophobia. In any case, send me your thoughts on this. Have you had experiences like this? Would be very curious to know.